Dariel is a 34-year-old soldier who has been loyally serving the Demon King's army ever since he was taken in as an abandoned baby and raised by one of the 4 heavenly generals, Granverza. Despite his long time of faithful service, he is stuck at the lowest of the low ranks in the army because he lacks the ability to use any magic. From the beginning of time, demons and humans have always fought wars against each other. The only difference between the two is that demons can wield magic and humans can't. Not having any magical powers, Dariel has been looked down upon by the other generals as a disgrace from the beginning. After his guardian, Granverza, retired, his son, Bashubaza, assumed his position. On the very first day as one of the heavenly generals, Bashubaza fires Dariel from his position and kicks him out of the palace. With no home to go back to, Dariel wanders around aimlessly in the woods for days with little food to eat and very little sleep in hopes of starting a new life. One morning he stumbles upon a human woman who is being chased by a monkey monster. His natural instinct as a soldier makes him defend the woman from its attack. With 0 magical skills to use, he tries to use his brute strength to hold the monster off, but he falls to the ground mid-charge due to his weakened and starved body. The monster punches him, sending him flying across. Dariel notices a dagger in the woman's fallen bag. Even though it is considered a taboo for a Demon King army soldier to use a human weapon, he grabs it and stabs the monster in its chest, copying the moves of a human hero he had seen before. Seeing the monster that attacked her killed, the woman thanks Dariel for saving her life. He tries to make his leave, but she grabs onto the back of his cloak and refuses to let go until he agrees to come back to her village. She wishes to thank him properly by inviting him home and serving him a meal. Tempted by the offer of a good hot meal, Dariel agrees to go with her. Once they reach her home at Luck's village, she introduces herself as Malika. He even meets her mother and father, the village's mayor. He decides to be very cautious around them because they will attack him if they discover he is a demon. He explains that he was wandering in the forest because his former employer's son had taken over the business and fired him, forcing him to immediately leave the lodgings provided by the company. Grateful for saving her life, Malika and her parents insist on him staying in their house. Knowing he has nowhere else to go and no one else to care about him, he accepts their offer. The next day, Dariel and Malika's father discuss jobs over coffee. As the village's guild master, the father suggests Dariel register with the guild and become an adventurer, whose job is to complete quests requested by the locals ranging from collecting herbs to defeating monsters. He believes he is perfect for the job considering his physique. He gives him the guild registration form, making Dariel panic because only a human can successfully complete the ritual in the form. If he tries, he'll fail and reveal he is a demon. He tries to make excuses and run away, but Malika decides to help him out by forcefully poking his finger and putting a drop of his blood on the form. To Dariel's complete shock, he successfully performs the ritual and gets registered in the guild. He discovers that he was a human all along and was merely brought up by the demon Granverza in demon society. The next day, the father gives him the first lecture about being an adventurer. He first teaches him about aura. It is something that all humans are born with, which they can use by infusing it into their weapons to fight. The best choice of weapon for an adventurer depends on their aura, which can be of 4 types: slash, sting, protect, and hit. Dariel picks up a sword first, which will test his slash ability. The father gives him a large tree stump to slash across, saying slashing even halfway through is a good indicator of being the slash type. Despite not knowing how to use a sword, Dariel infuses his aura into it and makes a large slashing motion. The stump is cleanly cut all the way across, astonishing both Malika and the father. Next, he aims at an apple with a simple bow and arrow to test his sting ability. He hits the apple with tremendous force, causing it to fly back and raise a dust storm. After that, he is made to hit a boulder with a hammer, causing it to crumble into pieces. Finally, he has to block an attack by the father using a giant iron hammer with a small wooden shield to test his protectability. Despite the father's strongest attack, Dariel successfully blocks it and sends the father on his back. These results prove that Dariel has a perfect aura for all 4 types, something the father has never heard of. The father advises him to apply to the Central Guild, the top organization for any aspiring adventurer. His abilities are more than enough to get him in, and the father will also write him a letter of recommendation. However, Dariel sees Malika's tears and asks to remain in the village. Shortly after, the father introduces Dariel as a new adventurer to the villagers. Everybody happily welcomes him except for one green-haired teen guy who shames Dariel for being an old geezer. The teen is Gashida, the village's only current adventurer. Gashida asks him what his rank is. When Dariel reveals his E rank, Gashida makes fun of him and flexes his D rank, telling him not to get in his way. The father apologizes for Gashia's cocky behavior and gives him his first assignment, collecting a bunch of medicinal herbs to complete a pile of requests that Gashia refuses to do. Dariel accepts, The father warns him to be careful while looking for these herbs, as there have been multiple sightings of a monster in the surrounding woods. Gashia accepted the assignment to hunt it 6 months ago, but has been unsuccessful so far. When he shows Dariel a picture, Dariel and Malika realize that the monster is the same one that he killed and saved Malika from. With that, Dariel completed his first guild assignment without even knowing it. The next day, Gashida and Dariel go over quests with the guild master. The guild master makes Gashida thank Dariel for defeating the monkey monster for him. Embarrassed and frustrated for being upstaged by an E-rank adventurer, Gashida grabs a quest from the master's desk despite his protests and runs off to complete it. Dariel sets off into the woods with Malika by his side to show him around and guide him. He notices she seems very comfortable moving around in the forest, walking past thorny bushes and climbing up short cliffs. She shares that she also always wanted to be an adventurer. She was in the woods the day Dariel saved her because an old woman in the village was sick with a bad cold, but Gashia refused to go and collect medicinal herbs. Once they reach a haven for herbs, they start looking for their first medicinal herb. It hurts beyond belief. While foraging, she notices deer tracks and decides to hunt it down for dinner. They end up tracking a deer down, but its eyes turn a scary red. The monster deer jumps to a massive height and lands past them to fight another giant spider monster. Malika excitedly draws her dagger and runs toward them to try and kill both of them. Thanks to mostly Dariel, they kill both the monsters and bring them back to the village. Gashia runs off, crying like a baby because his spotlight was stolen again. Days pass and Dariel adjusts to the village life well. The only problem is Gashia's unwillingness to work with Dariel. One day, Dariel arrives at the office to see the father stressed. The father explains that an urgent quest about a highly dangerous blaze death side monster in the village's woods has been issued. Since it is very powerful, hunting it is limited to C rankers and above, but the village has none. Due to this, the quest has been handed over to the neighboring town's guild, which has already dispatched its adventurers to surround it. Gashida ended up seeing the quest when he was at the guild office and left quickly, making the guild master worry that he will try to hunt it down himself and interfere with the other guild's plans. Such an incident could cause conflict between the two guilds, and the guild master will be held responsible. Dariel volunteers to go and get Gashida back safely. Malika gives him medicinal supplies she made from the herbs they had collected before he leaves. Dariel makes his way to the area where the blaze death scythe was spotted. He is surprised to see a large trail left by the monster and wonders where the other guild's adventurers are. He sees Gashia screaming and running toward him with the monster following him. Dariel holds his ground and prepares to fight the giant serpent, but it ignores him and continues following Gashida. Gashida tries to shoot it with an arrow, but the arrow merely bounces off its tough scales. Dariel attacks it from behind but lands too shallow of a wound. The monster tries whipping its tail at Dariel, and he tries to block it with his sword, causing it to break. Dariel takes one of the sharp pieces and uses both sting and hit abilities to throw the piece into the monster's mouth and blow apart its insides. It works, and the blaze death side monster perishes at his feet. After that, Dariel applies the antivenom that Malika gave to Gashia's bite wound and pours blood-staunch herb over his other wounds to stop the bleeding. With that, they return to the village. The next day, Gashida comes to the house and greets Dariel as Big Bro, saying that he owes his life to him and wishes to work under him after healing from his injuries. Meanwhile, at the Demon King's palace, one of the heavenly generals returns after being forced to flee a battle against a powerful hero's party. She blames her defeat on the new assistant of the heavenly generals because he did not scout the enemy properly and failed to report that a new spearman had joined the party. Bashubaza immediately fires him, making him the 4th or 5th assistant fired since Dariel's dismissal. One of the generals, Deroy, suggests reappointing Dariel, saying he always carried out his tasks perfectly, was skilled in strategy, and also looked after their health. Bashubaza, however, hates him so much that his blood boils and refuses to consider that option. One night, Dariel asks the mayor why the village has so many empty houses. The mayor explains that beyond the village there is a mithril mine, a highly valuable metal with mysterious properties. Humans use it to make superior quality weapons with unparalleled performance, while demons use it to make magical equipment. This led to disputes between the humans and demons for control over the mine. Since Lux Village was a common stopping place in the mithril trade route, it flourished as a lodging town. Unfortunately, when the mayor was a kid, the demons took complete control over the mine, causing the town's main revenue source to get cut off. Since then, Lux Village has slowly been declining to its ultimate death. Dariel decides to sneak into the mithril mine the next day, since he was the one in charge of the mine as a part of his duties as the assistant of the army generals. The workers there know him. He hopes that he can negotiate with at least one of them to get some mithril to bring back to Lux Village to help in its development. He puts an empty crate over his head and walks through the gate. Finding it weird, there is no security to hide from. He quickly realizes that there are no soldiers at the mine, wondering who has been put in charge of the mine since he was fired. He walks into the mine shaft, yelling for anyone there to show themselves. A group of small beings with wide faces and fluorescent facial features called knockers emerge from the darkness. They immediately recognize Dariel and excitedly greet him, and he waves back equally enthusiastically. They hug him and line up to receive pats from him individually, claiming that he is the best boss they had. They tell them that they have to supply 4 times as much mithril as before under Bashubaza's orders. They are treated with respect by the new management, and the soldiers that used to be deployed for their security have been withdrawn to cut costs. Their ranting is cut short when a group of demon soldiers enters the mine. Dariel quickly hides behind a large rock. The new commander yells at the knockers for not supplying enough mithril in the given time frame. Despite their begging, he threatens and orders them to have the material ready by the next day, or there will be consequences. Fed up, one of the knockers decides to rebel and hits the commander on his head. Infuriated, he orders the soldiers to kill them all. Knowing the knockers have no match against trained soldiers, Dariel interrupts the first magical spell by throwing a spade at the soldier. He then appears in front of them with a sword, wearing a mask made of cloth to hide his identity. He asks the demons to withdraw, saying he will not pursue them if they do so, but if they continue attacking, they will have to face him. The commander simply laughs at him and orders his soldiers to continue their attack. Some of the soldiers start casting spells, but Dariel knows they require the utmost concentration to cast them. As long as he can break their focus, it should be fine. However, one of the knockers tries to attack a soldier who has almost completed his ritual. Dariel thinks it is too late to save him, but the soldier kicks him back. Seeing this, Dariel realizes they have been trained as honorable soldiers, just like he was. He tries to appeal to their morals by urging them not to kill the knockers, as they are non-combatant civilians and killing them would make them murderers, not soldiers. It seems to work until the commander attacks Dariel and threatens the soldiers with attacking them, failing which they will be burnt to ash. The soldiers chant rituals of the different elements. Dariel knows the duration of each element's ritual, allowing him to time his attacks so that he takes down the soldiers in ascending order of the ritual durations. The commander frantically casts a spell on him, but he easily blocks it with his sword and tackles the commander to the ground with his sword on his neck. Desperate to save his own life, the commander begs Dariel to spare him because he is a civilian. He explains that he had simply gotten along well with Lord Bashubaza at a ball, after which the Lord entrusted him with managing the mine. The Honorable Dariel slashes his sword down, giving the commander a bad haircut, and tells him to go back and resign from his post. The commander instantly agrees and runs off, with the soldiers following him. The grateful knockers thank Dariel for freeing them from the commander and make him their boss. Dariel returns to the village and reports to the mayor that he has regained control over the mine. In return, he pleads with the mayor to ensure protection for the knockers. And so the mithril mine returns under human control for the first time in decades. The knockers are allowed to remain there as guides since they are familiar with the entire mine's layout. With the re-emergence of mining, people pour into Lux Village, returning it to its previous state as a bustling, prosperous town. The Demon King's army continues to face problems due to severe mismanagement under Bashubaza's leadership, and the loss of mithril supply is the final nail in the coffin. The Demon King has him dragged to the throne room to punish him for his blunders. He is mad that Bashubaza unreasonably increased the weekly quota for mithril 4 times to make a weapon that the king had repeatedly told him not to make. Due to this, the knockers were overworked and turned against the demons, something the king considers a grave mistake. He suggests bringing back Dariel to manage affairs like before, praising Bashubaza's father for being smart enough to keep good soldiers like Dariel close. Hearing his name triggers Bashubaza a lot, causing him to throw a tantrum outside the courtroom. With the village up and bustling, Malika tries asking Dariel to marry her, but is interrupted by a fight between Gashida and Fitibitan, the leader of Campbell Town's adventurers. After learning that Lux Village only has 2 D-rank adventurers, Fitibitan mocks their abilities by saying the mithril mine incident was just a fluke, telling them they will overtake all mine-related work. Dariel retorts by pointing out that killing the Blaze Death side monster was the Campbell Town adventurer's quest, but it was entirely taken care of by him and Gashida. Finnebitin is left speechless and is forced to drop his claim over the mine. The next day, Mr. Bestford, a diplomat from the Central Guild, meets with Dariel. He was sent to negotiate terms with the knockers, but they are too weary to talk to anyone except Dariel. Dariel explains that they are being cautious because they were being exploited by the demon army, and so can't trust outsiders. They think of Dariel as their savior from their demon oppressors, allowing them to trust him. Bestford requests Dariel to be an intermediary between the knockers and the guild during negotiations, and Dariel accepts. As soon as Dariel arrives at the mine and asks the knockers to at least listen to what Mr. Bestford has to say, they immediately agree to cooperate. While leaving the mine, Dariel hears an announcement on behalf of the Demon King forgiving the Knockers for their betrayal and urges them to return and work for the demons. Dariel recognizes the voice and runs to look for it. Sure enough, the announcer is his former friend from the army, Rizet. Rizet builds a tall wall of rushing water between him and the adventurer, asking him to withdraw. Dariel tells him to calm down and reveals his identity. Realizing it's him, Rizet hugs his old friend and tells him how worried he's been for him. Dariel tells Rizet the truth that he is actually a human. Although shocked, Rizet promises to keep his secret. Rizet echoes everyone's sentiment when he shares how badly everything is turning out for the demons. Ever since the Demon King reprimanded Basharbazad, he's been even worse. Rizet was sent here by the Demon King to reconcile with the Knockers and resolve any grievances. Maintaining a good relationship with demi-humans like the Knockers is essential for the demon's success. He tries to convince Dariel to come back, saying one of the 4 generals, Lady Deroy, has been advocating for his return. However, Dariel declines the offer, saying he has a new life now. Rizet tries to use his magic to force Dariel to come with him, but Dariel uses his new skills with the aura to stop him. He has another plan. Dariel takes Rizet to Mr. Bestfred and pitches his idea. He suggests that humans should use their monopoly on mithril to sell some of it to the demons at a price 4 times higher than the market value. The two point out how mithril is an essential resource for both humans and demons, so the demons will definitely come to try and win back the mine. This would result in another battle and countless deaths. Instead, the humans could supply a small portion of mithril to avoid such a violent outcome. Rizet assures that the demons are in dire need of mithril and will be willing to pay the high price. Fitibitten, who is on guard duty, protests against this idea and attacks Rizet with a dagger that Dariel blocks. Mr. Bestford orders Fitibitten to stop, pointing out that he has only been hired for security and escort, and accepts Dariel's idea. The next day, Mr. Bestford instructs Dariel to find the old mithril workshop and get it running again. However, when he gets there, Fitibitten has already arrived with Campbell Town adventurers and claimed it. The mayor explains that the mithril mine used to be guarded by Campbell Town, but now that Dariel has regained control over it, Fitibitten is more adamant about the workshop. An old man named Smith comes to the village as an expert mithril smith upon the Central Guild's request. He asks Dariel to let him work at the workshop, but Dariel says that the workshop is under the control of Campbell Town. Smith goes down to the workshop and begs the arrogant Fitibitten to let him work there. Fitibitten largely dismisses him and only allows him to work in a corner of the workshop. He is overjoyed to be working with mithril again. The other smiths are having trouble forging the metal, so Smith demonstrates the proper way to do it by crafting a huge sword. Dariel is amazed at how easily his aura is absorbed into it and cuts through a giant tree without feeling any resistance. Fitibitten apologizes for looking down upon Smith earlier and begs him to come work at the workshop, but he refuses due to his initial rudeness. Later, Smith shares that his true goal is to make the greatest weapon in his lifetime for Dariel to use with his perfect aura of all 4 types. During his time at the workshop, he was able to pickpocket some of the mithril, and his assistant set up a small working space at the house. He brought an ethanol furnace, a type of magical equipment available on the black market. However, he cannot use it because it requires a magical source. Dariel calls Rizet to provide the required magic source, who only agrees to do it once because it's his friend, Dariel's request. Later that day, Fitibitten tells Dariel to team up with Campbell Town and fight the Central Guild, claiming that they are keeping most of the profits from the mine for themselves. He promises that Campbell Town will treat Lux Village better if he agrees to form an alliance. Dariel declines, saying he can't team up with someone who's hurt so many people he cares about. Infuriated, Fitibitten challenges him to a duel at the village square the next day. Back at the house, the mayor explains the rules of a duel. The duel goes on until one of the participants surrenders or can no longer fight. The outcome of the duel will most probably be used to decide the ownership of the mine. If a person is killed in a duel, the killer isn't charged with a crime. Hence, people use duels as an opportunity to fulfill personal revenge. Worried for Dariel's life, everybody advises him to back out of the duel, which would mean Campbell Town gaining control of the mineral. Dariel insists that he will participate. Smith teaches him to use a mithril weapon for the duel. The next morning arrives and both opponents meet at the square. Fitibitten is armed with a shield and blade, partly made out of mithril. Dariel draws out a seemingly simple and small pure mithril knife. While Fitibitten taunts him about his weapon, Dariel flings a boulder that Fitibitten only notices when it explodes near his face. Fitibitten runs forth to attack, but Dariel forces him to stay back as he makes the blade of his knife extend. Fitibitten finds an opening and tries to make a move with his blade, but Dariel effectively blocks it with a knife. He follows it with a strike on Fitibitten's shield, causing the shield to split in 2. Smith gives commentary in the background. He explains that the knife he made is called Hermes' Sword and is no ordinary weapon. He designed it so that the wielder's aura can change its shape, and since Dariel has a perfect aura, there are no limits to the forms the sword can take. Dariel slashes Fitibitin's blade to pieces. One of Fitibitin's adventurers throws a mithril-long sword at him. Dariel transforms his sword into a whip and shatters the long sword on Fitibitin's first attack, marking Dariel's swift victory. Fitibitin has taken way too many L's at this point. Malika is overjoyed and hugs Dariel while congratulating him. Later, Mr. Bestford from the Central Guild earnestly apologizes to Dariel for the incident and says that Campbelltown and its guild will be punished. Dariel asks if he can choose the punishment, requesting that the guild be made to repair the house's damage due to the duel. Recognizing his honor and talent, Bestford invites Dariel to join the Central Guild, which Malika overhears. Dariel says he will need some time to think about it. That night, while Dariel relaxes in the sauna, Malika enters and asks to talk to him. She says that since he will be going to the Central Guild with him, she wants to spend more time with him before he leaves. She encourages him to do well, saying that she knew this day would come since he is so talented. She thanks him for all the work he has done to make Lux Village a better place, and that she has never felt happier. Dariel says he already decided not to take the Central Guild's offer, claiming he loves the village. Malika is so relieved that she starts crying. Dariel holds her face to wipe her tears and kisses her. Over at the Demon King's palace, Bashubaza meets with his father, Granverza. Granverza asks Bashubaza if he remembers what he said to him when he retired from his position as Heavenly General. Bashubaza recalls that he told him that Dariel was the greatest stroke of luck in his life, and passing him on the Bashubazo was a way to pass the good fortune to him and celebrate his new position. Granverza asks him how Dariel is doing, to which Bashubaza frantically assures him that he is doing well serving the generals. Knowing his son is lying, he punches him through the wall. He demands Bashubaza bring Dariel back, but Bashubaza refuses yet again, saying he wishes to prove his worth on his own. The next day, the mayor has a chat with Dariel. He says he and his wife are getting old, and Dariel has greatly contributed to the village's growth. He offers the title of mayor to Dariel. Dariel accepts and requests permission from him to marry Malika. Once granted, he asks for Malika's hand in marriage, and she gladly accepts. This marks the beginning of a new chapter in Dariel's life. 1 year passes, and Dariel and Malika are happily married with a baby son, Gran, named after Dariel's father figure, Granverza. He opened up about his past to Malika and her family, and they accepted him regardless. He is a successful mayor under whom the mithril processing business flourishes in the village as it grows bigger and bigger. Smith passed away due to old age, but spent his last days in the workshop following his passion for mithril smithing. One day, Gashida informs Dariel that the hero is coming to the village. Hero is the title rewarded to the strongest adventurer in the Central Guild devoted to defeating the Demon King. Dariel recalls the hero being a scary old bearded man who would kill demons mercilessly. Afraid that he will be recognized as the assistant to the demon army, Dariel prepares to greet the hero with his face covered. However, he is surprised to see the hero being a young, beautiful girl named Lady. She only recently earned the title after the old hero retired, and has come to the village to acquire the perfect mithril weapon to fight the Demon King. She and her party receive lodging at the mayor's house. She states that she has 2 objectives for coming to the village, the first being that she wants to see mithril weapons. She is given a tour to the mithril workshop, the only one that exists in the world. Smith had passed on all his knowledge to the smiths working there before dying, including a boy named Sakai, who is currently the best mithril smith. Sakai touches Hero Lady's hand just like Smith had taught him, and finds out that she is a slash type. Impressed, she reveals her second objective. She is seeking a 4th member for her party, a goal that she has been trying to complete by traveling to many regions. The village holds a competition to decide the 4th member, with many signing up to participate. The method of selection is a head-to-head battle between the 3 party members and all the participants. The hero's party members use kitchen utensils as handicaps, but all participants still lose. Suddenly, an arrow whistles past Lady's face. Gashida is the one who shot it from a distance, and he keeps shooting at her. Lady charges in the direction of the arrows, sensing that the attacker has good power. Gashida uses his aura to lift the arrows from the ground and attack her again, but she slashes them down. Gashida prepares for another round, but Lady activates an attack that would have killed Gashida. Dariel is forced to intervene to save his life. Gashida apologizes to Dariel for disgracing the village, but Dariel praises him for his effort as the strongest adventurer in the village. Within a year, Gashida has leveled up from D rank to B rank. Sensing his powers, Lady starts an attack on Dariel to test him. He isn't even match for her, forcing Lady to use her most powerful move, Sky Rend. Dariel has already seen this attack multiple times from the former hero and successfully counters it. Lady eagerly offers him the final position in her party, but he politely declines and goes back home. Lady and her party visit his house to try and convince him to join. Dariel insists that he is committed to being with his family and watching his son grow. In his mind, he also doesn't wish to fight the demons who once were his family, like Exiled, Granverza, and Lady Dariel. Lady cannot believe that there is anything more important than defeating the Demon King and decides to stalk Dariel to figure him out. Throughout the day, she watches him help out the villagers on their errands and aid those in trouble. She understands that Dariel truly believes his highest purpose is to take care of his people. That night, she wishes to discuss something with him privately. She asks him where he learned the Sky Wren technique. He claims that he picked it up by copying her style, but she points out how it was different from hers and more similar to the previous hero, Exiled. When Dariel says he has no idea about this, Lady gets mad and urges him to join the fight against demons again. They argue over which side started the first attack against the other, with Dariel arguing that a human hero set out to kill the Demon King first and the demons merely fight out of defense. Lady rejects this, pointing out that one of the demon generals, Bezetin, had needlessly killed Exil's wife and son, which caused him to become a merciless monster and avenge his family's death. Despite all that, he never found his son's corpse. Dariel reasons that everyone from both sides fights for their loved ones, and neither is the evil side. Lady is moved by his strong values and strength and requests him to be her teacher to improve her skills further. Dariel accepts, considering it a chance to persuade the hero to stop the long war. One day, Exiled visits Dariel to tell him about his new promotion to the Special Envoyed position, a new title made just for him after he successfully mediated the Mithril affair. Their meeting gets hijacked by the appearance of Lady Zibiantis, one of 4 heavenly generals. She punishes Exiled for not informing Dariel of Dariel's whereabouts even though he knew it all along. However, she is forced to behave civilly after Malika shows her fury. She demands Dariel to hand over the control of Mithril supplies to her, but he refuses to comply. Afraid of Malika's death stare, Zibiantis moves the conversation outdoors, where she tries gaining control by using force. However, Dariel keeps beating her again and again. Frustrated, she tries a new plan, destroy the village with a geostorm and look for the Mithril afterward. Dariel unleashes a giant sky wren like a Lensel's to swallow the storm. She goes out cold and starts falling down from her height, but Dariel and Exiled save her. Accepting her defeat, Zibiantis agrees to buy some Mithril from him and purchase a weapon that can be used with magic. Dariel goes to great lengths to keep the demon Zibians away from Lady and her party when she visits the Mithril workshop. However, they run into each other at the sauna and start arguing. Dariel interferes and brings them home to explain the situation. He comes clean about the truth to explain his attachment to both sides. They understand his situation but continue to bicker between themselves. Malika suggests a duel to clear the air between them. Dariel decides to oversee the duel on the condition that neither will try to kill their opponent. The next morning, the duel begins. Both are evenly matched, and no clear winner emerges for a long time. Gran, Dariel's son, pushes his way out of Malika's arm and runs off toward the 2 mid-duel. A large boulder from one of their attacks is about to fall on him, but Zibiantis destroys it in the air with a spell. This allows Lady to finally recognize the goodness in demons, and the two get along well and call off the duel. Dariel thinks this is the best outcome of the duel as it proves the possibility of the demons and humans uniting. Over at the Demon King's courtroom, Granverza requests the king to fire his son Bashubaza from his heavenly general post because he has abandoned his duties and not come out of his room for over a year. The Demon King points out how he seems to care much more about Dariel, the assistant he raised, than his own son. The king gives him Dariel's location, which he has known all this time. One day, one of Lady's party members brings a guest to Dariel after running into him during a quest. He is shocked to see the guest is Exiled, the strongest hero in history. Remembering him as a bloodthirsty murderer, Dariel is terrified to see him at his doorstep. However, he is even more shocked when he sees Exiled interact with the village kids like a gentle old man. The villagers are overjoyed to see one of their noble heroes in person. Dariel invites him into his home and warns Zibiantis not to use magic in the village as he can sniff out magical energy like a hound dog. Exiled says he's come to the village to continue training his apprentice, Lady, since he is healed from the injuries he sustained from Granverza's most powerful attack. Many people from the village come to spectate her training from the legendary hero. Exiled effortlessly dodges all her attacks while signing autographs. Noticing her sword skills have improved, he asks her who she has been training with. After learning Dariel has been her teacher while he was gone, Exiled asks Dariel to spar with him. Although hesitant, Dariel gets peer pressure into it. He stalls by convincing Exiled to have a good meal before the fight. They enjoy a good picnic with delicious food when Exiled senses magic from Dariel's house. There is a sudden switch in his behavior. He flings his weapon toward the source, trapping Zibiantis by her foot. He zooms into the house and attempts to kill her, but is blocked by Dariel, who refuses anybody to be killed within his village. The two men fight, with Dariel barely being able to defend himself and Zebanaz. Impressed that someone else can use all 4 types of aura, Alensis urges Dariel to become the hero, so they can work together to destroy the demons. When he refuses, the two unleash Sky Rend of equal power, neutralizing each other. Alensis asks him why he's working so hard to protect a demon's life. Dariel says he wishes for demons and humans to coexist because he is a human who was raised by demons. He explains that one of the former generals, Bezetin, had found him as a baby 30 years ago and entrusted him to Granverza. Connecting the dots, Alensil realizes that Dariel is the son he thought he lost years ago. Before Dariel can process this, Alensil blocks a fire attack from Granverza, who just arrived at Lux Village. Granverza hugs Alensil after reuniting with him after a long time. He admits having known that Dariel was a human after he couldn't use magic past the age of 5, but he couldn't bring himself to leave him. Because of his love for Dariel, he could become as strong as he is today. Alensil seethes with his anger, saying that time was supposed to be his, but it was taken away by demons. Losing all that time he could spend with his son filled him with hate and anger, giving him the strength he has today. Alensil is motivated to exact all his revenge by killing Granverza right then and there. The two get ready for a fierce fight, but Malika comes in clutch as always, showing them both baby Gran, their grandson. The two greatest warriors put their differences aside when they see the baby. Even though Alensil can't ever go back in time to be a father, he can use the rest of his time to be a grandfather. Over at the palace, Bashubaza looks forward to the ceremony that will make him the highest-ranking general, but walks into an empty hall. None of the guests accepted his invitation. To rub salt in his wounds, all the servers credit Dariel for all the work, saying that nothing gets done when he isn't around. Bashubaza finally snaps and blows up the building before deciding to hunt Dariel down. Back in Dariel's house, his 3 fathers chug beers together and play with Gran. Alensil makes peace with the past, acknowledging Granverza's role as a good father figure, and they both shake hands. Then he spoils the mood by asking Alensil to continue training her. Dariel asks why she is still insistent on defeating the Demon King after learning that there are good demons. Alensil explains that it has always been the hero's belief that the Demon King is the source of all misfortune, and that his defeat would bring an abundance of fortune. However, Alensis knows this is just propaganda. In reality, the Demon King possesses the greatest wisdom and power in the world. The Central Guild believes that taking him down will give them power, allowing humans to evolve into the superior race. For instance, the Central Guild suspect the demons are bestowed their magical powers by the Demon King, and if they defeat him, even the Central Guild can learn to possess magic. After revealing the greedy intentions of the battle, Alensil asks Lady if she still wants to fight. She says that she will continue in her mission as her hero, as she wishes to see everything with her own eyes before coming up with her own answer. At that moment, Fetipitan rushes in to inform everyone that the Mytho mine is under attack by a monster. Zebianthes transports everyone to the mine with her wind powers. They are horrified to see a giant monster that none of them have seen before. Even though none of the guards were harmed while escaping, the knockers are still trapped inside. Without hesitation, Dariel runs into the mine to save the knockers, with Alensil accompanying him. Hero Lady and her party, Granverza and Zebianthes, unite forces to fight the monster, but nothing seems to affect it. Dariel and Altensil find the knockers hiding beneath the rubble, but the dragon-like monster descends to face them. Father and son cast Sky Rends together, causing the dragon to fall to the ground. It quickly gets back up and roars at Dariel. Dariel extends his hand toward it, and the monster looks at it for a while before flying away. Sensing something weird is happening, Granverza returns to the Demon King's castle with Zebianthes. The rest rescue the knockers and injured guards. One of the mine workers is reported missing. Granverza arrives at the castle and immediately goes to his son to confront him about the Room of Secrets. The Room of Secrets is a hidden chamber in the castle that houses every hex, which are types of magic banned for being too powerful and risky, sort of like the dark web. Granverza had sensed Bashubaza's traces on the monster that attacked the mine, making him realize that he had used a hex to control a monster. He lectures his son about how he wastes his magical abilities on wrong deeds and how he should have learned from Dariel. Bashubaza retaliates by calling his father a traitor for being friends with humans, having seen him through the A's of the monster. Granverza realizes Bashubaza has used the Spirit Synchronization Hex, a super taboo hex that invades the caster's mind and makes them slowly lose their ability to distinguish themselves from others. Bashubaza summons the dragon monster to take him to the mine, where both heroes are present, hoping to defeat them both at once. Over at the mine, Dariel tries rescuing all the knockers when he is confronted by a scary-looking giant thing asking for him. It reveals itself to be the magical earth beast, Gigantomachia. It says it's hurt to see his friend, Salamandra, or the dragon monster so angry. Recognizing Dariel's good heart, the giant rewards him by removing some of the restrictions present in the mythos structure in his Hermes sword. Later, Dariel receives information from Granverza that Bashubaza was the one controlling the Salamandra, and that he is approaching Lux Village with the 4 legendary beasts to kill Alancel, Lady, and her party. Dariel's first course of action is to evacuate his village. Malika gives him a glove and a ring as a form of good luck. Him and the other warriors wait for Bashubaza's arrival. Bashubaza makes a grand entry with his fierce Salamandra. As soon as they greet each other, Bashubaza notices the ring on Dariel's finger and asks if he is married. Clapping with glee, Bashubaza says he will first kill his wife. Dariel transforms his sword to a whip to keep Salamandra in its place, and Zebianthis uses her strong wind powers to force it to the ground. Dariel unleashes Skyren and slashes at Bashubaza with his sword while requesting a negotiation to make amends for taking control of the mine. Bashubaza clarifies that he doesn't care about that, but instead has come to complete his dream to end the demon-human conflict. What he actually means by that is to kill the heroes and eradicate all humans to end the conflict. Is that you, Aaron? The two continue fighting, and Bashubaza ends up cornering Dariel against a wall. Dariel commends Bashubaza for his amazing magic skills and for being able to use powerful hexes. Frustrated by his words, Bashubaza decides to use the trump card he was saving for the heroes. He uses a hex to enhance his powers, growing 2 horns and a tail like the devil. At the same time, the others are engaged in fighting the Salamandra. One of the hero party's members makes a dome-shaped wall around them so that the monster can't fly away, while the rest attack with full force. The 2 veterans, Alancel and Granverza, swiftly take it down and cherish this moment as it is the first time humans and demons have united. With one threat taken care of, they focus their attention on the giant fireball and bolt of light in the distance. Bashubaza cast the fireball out of anger when Dariel was trying to convince him to stop. The last thing he wants is to be told what to do by Dariel. Dariel recognizes the spell he used for the fireball and realizes he must stop it or it will destroy the whole village. He uses the Hermes sword to channel his aura into a giant light beam and destroys the spell. The hex continues, taking a greater toll on Bashubaza's body, transforming him into a dark beast-like figure. He attacks Dariel with renewed strength and pins him against a wall. The spirit synchronization hex becomes so strong that the magic starts spilling over, causing Dariel to enter Bashubaza's memories. Bashubaza deeply admired his father and wanted to become one of the heavenly generals just like his dad. However, he would hardly get to see him once in a few years. When Bashubaza was 10, Granverza brought Dariel home and introduced this stranger as his older brother. Bashubaza was filled with sadness, realizing his father spent the time he could spend with his son with Dariel instead. He wasn't allowed to join the army until he grew much older and excelled in magic. When he finally thought he could be by his father's side, Granverza retired and gave him the general position and Dariel to be his aide. His constant loneliness turned into hate and bitterness, forcing him to make beating Dariel his life's purpose. Dariel finally understands Bashubaza's feelings and tries to communicate his feelings through their synchronized thoughts. He shares how he always knew he didn't belong in Granverza's family and was not capable of doing magic, so he did his best never to cause any trouble. When he met Bashubaza for the first time, he was determined to be a good older brother to him, but now understands that he failed. He promises Bashubaza that if he can be forgiven, he will do what an older brother is supposed to do and support him until he can feel loved and safe. Dariel's words reach Bashubaza, causing the hex to break, and Bashubaza returns to his normal body. Now that the hex is broken, Bashubaza no longer has control over Salamandra. Salamandra goes on rampage, but Bashubaza fuses himself with its body to control it for a short period of time and take it somewhere else at the cost of his life. Bashubaza accepts his fate and is glad to have at least reconciled with his family before dying. However, Granverza and Dariel chase the monster down, destroy it, and save Bashubaza. Dariel and the others return to his home, where Malika waits for them with a huge feast. Seeing her husband safe and sound, she gives him a hug so tight it almost kills him. At the same time, Bashubaza faces the Demon King for his crimes. He banishes Bashubaza from the Demon Kingdom as punishment. Granverza brings Bashubaza to Dariel's home, where he is welcomed with open arms. He meets Gran, his baby niece, who says his first word, "Big brother Bashubaza." Everybody, humans and demons alike, celebrate together. Bashubaza leaves to help those he hurt, like the Knockers, and travel the world to increase his knowledge. Dariel continues living his happy second life in the small, peaceful village.